Declaration. The silence in the Galactic Council chamber was absolute. 300 representatives from the most powerful species in the known universe sat motionless, their attention fixed on the holographic display hovering above the central dais. The image showed a small blue-green planet, unremarkable except for the bustling activity surrounding it. Ships, satellites, and space stations orbited the world like a swarm of insects. Earth. High Counselor Zextral, a tall figure with sleek obsidian skin and 6 gleaming eyes, stood from his position at the head of the chamber. His crystalline voice cut through the silence like a blade. "For centuries, we have observed this world," he began, gesturing toward the hologram. "A primitive planet with primitive beings. We deemed them harmless, a curiosity at best, unworthy of our concern or intervention." A murmur rippled through the assembly as the hologram shifted, displaying images of human technological development, from early space exploration to the recent quantum advancements that had caught the Council's attention. "But we were wrong," Zextral continued, his voice hardening. "In the span of a mere century, a blink of an eye by our standards, these humans have accelerated their technological progress at an alarming rate. Our projections indicate that within 2 decades, they will have developed interstellar capabilities comparable to our own." The Vexari representative, a being composed of swirling energy contained within an environmental suit, raised a glowing appendage. "High Counselor, with respect, what threat could these humans possibly pose? Their world is isolated, their resources limited. They have no allies among the spacefaring races." Zextral's upper eyes narrowed. "That is precisely what makes them dangerous, Representative Vexari. They have achieved this advancement in isolation, without guidance or assistance. They are unpredictable, untamed." He paused for effect. "And most concerning of all, they possess a trait that we have not encountered in any other species." The hologram changed again, displaying human conflicts throughout history, wars, revolutions, resistance movements. They refuse to submit, even when faced with overwhelming odds. They adapt. They persist. And most troublingly, they innovate under pressure. The chamber erupted in concerned whispers as Zextral continued. "Our intelligence division has uncovered evidence that the humans have been experimenting with dimensional technology, something we ourselves have deemed too dangerous to pursue. If they succeed in harnessing this power, they could pose an existential threat to the established order of the galaxy." The Krell representative, a massive reptilian being with armored scales, slammed a clawed fist against the table. "Then the solution is simple. We must eliminate this threat before it matures. A swift, overwhelming strike to bring these humans to their knees." Zextral nodded solemnly. "The Council's Strategic Command has already formulated a plan. We will deploy the 7th and 9th Fleets to establish a blockade of their solar system, while strike teams neutralize their key defensive installations and leadership centers. The operation will commence in 3 standard cycles." The vote was swift and nearly unanimous. The Galactic Council, which had maintained peace and order among the stars for millennia, had declared war on humanity. Admiral Eliza Chen stood at the window of Lunar Command Station, gazing down at the blue marble of Earth. 20 years in the United Earth Space Force had prepared her for many things, but not for this moment. The day humanity learned it was not alone in the universe, and that their cosmic neighbors had decided to exterminate them. "Admiral," a voice called from behind her, "the Security Council is assembled and waiting for your assessment." Chen turned to face her aide, Commander Jackson. His usually composed demeanor was strained, dark circles under his eyes betraying the sleepless nights since the alien transmission had been intercepted. "Tell them I'll be there in 5 minutes," she replied, returning her gaze to Earth. "And Jackson, make sure Dr. Cato is present. We're going to need Project Prometheus now more than ever." As Jackson left, Chen's mind raced through the events of the past 72 hours. The mysterious transmission, intercepted by the Deep Space Monitoring Station on Europa, had been clear in its intent despite the alien language. coordinates, tactical formations, and Earth prominently featured as a target. The subsequent message, broadcast on all frequencies in perfect English, had removed any doubt. People of Earth, the Galactic Council has deemed your species a threat to the established order. Your rapid advancement and dangerous experimentation must be contained. Surrender your weapons and submit to Council authority, or face extinction. You have 3 standard cycles to comply. The implications were staggering. Not only was humanity confronted with proof of intelligent alien life, but these aliens considered them dangerous enough to warrant preemptive action. And they could translate human languages perfectly, suggesting they had been observing Earth for quite some time. Chen made her way to the conference room, where the faces of Earth's leaders looked back at her from screens around the table. The President of the United Earth Government, Adama Okafor, nodded grimly as she entered. Admiral Chen, what are we facing? Okafor asked, his deep voice steady despite the circumstances. Chen activated the holographic display, showing the data compiled from their limited observations. Mr. President, distinguished council members, based on our analysis of the transmission and subsequent deep space observations, we're looking at a force of unprecedented scale. Our estimates suggest at least 300 vessels, each far larger than anything in our fleet. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity's combined space forces numbered less than 50 combat-capable ships, most designed for patrolling Earth orbit and the inner solar system colonies. Do we have any defensive options? Asked the Chinese representative, her face grim. Chen hesitated. Conventional options? No, we're outmatched in every category. Numbers, technology, experience. But she glanced toward the scientist seated at the far end of the table. Dr. Kato may have an alternative. Dr. Ryukato stood, adjusting his glasses nervously. At 53, the Japanese-Brazilian physicist was the leading mind behind humanity's most secret research initiative. Project Prometheus was never intended for military application, he began, but the principles behind dimensional resonance technology could be adapted. He tapped his tablet, and the hologram shifted to display a complex schematic. We've been experimenting with folding spacetime to create energy sources. Theoretically, the same technology could be weaponized, creating contained dimensional rifts that could disrupt or even destroy alien vessels, regardless of their technological superiority. How quickly can this be implemented? Okafor asked. We have 3 functioning prototypes, Kaito replied. With emergency protocols, we could prepare them for deployment within 48 hours. But I must emphasize, this technology is experimental. The risks are substantial. Chen interjected. The alternative is extinction. Dr. Kato. I think the choice is clear. Okafor nodded, his expression resolute. Implement full emergency protocols. Admiral Chen, you will coordinate our defensive strategy. Dr. Kato, you have whatever resources you need to weaponize this technology. He looked around the table. Ladies and gentlemen, humanity faces its greatest challenge. But if these aliens consider us dangerous, perhaps we should prove them right. In the weeks that followed, Earth transformed. Ancient rivalries and political disagreements were set aside as humanity united against an existential threat. Military installations worldwide operated at maximum capacity, converting civilian vessels for combat roles and accelerating the production of weapon systems. The most dramatic change occurred beneath the lunar surface, where Project Prometheus had been relocated. The cavernous facility housed thousands of scientists and engineers working around the clock to adapt dimensional technology for warfare. The dimensional resonators need to be calibrated precisely, Dr. Kato explained to Admiral Chen as they toured the facility. Too much power, and we could create an uncontrollable rift that would threaten Earth itself. Too little, and the effect will be negligible against their shields. Chen nodded, watching as technicians assembled what looked like sleek silver torpedoes. How many can we produce before they arrive? Perhaps 30, if we push the fabrication systems to their limits, Kaito replied. But without field testing, we can't guarantee their effectiveness. We'll be doing our field testing in actual combat, Doctor, Chen said grimly. How are the delivery systems coming along? Kato led her to another section of the facility, where engineers were modifying 3 of Earth's newest stealth vessels. The Artemis, Apollo, and Athena will each carry 10 resonators. We've enhanced their stealth systems with dimensional dampening technology. In theory, they should be invisible to conventional sensors. In theory, Chen repeated. A lot is riding on your theories, Doctor. Kato's expression was solemn. I know, but remember what these aliens said in their message. They fear our potential. Perhaps they're right to do so. As they spoke, a technician approached with a tablet. Admiral, we've detected movement at the edge of the solar system. Multiple objects decelerating from FTL speeds. Chen's blood ran cold. They're early. She turned to Kato. How soon can the ships be ready? 24 hours, minimum, he replied, already barking orders to his team to accelerate their work. Chen activated her comm unit. This is Admiral Chen. Initiate Defense Protocol Omega. All military personnel to battle stations. First contact is imminent. She paused, then added, and may God help us all. The Galactic Council's vanguard emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, a formation of sleek, predatory vessels that dwarfed anything humans had ever constructed. At their center was the Harbinger, command ship of Fleet Admiral Voskar. Voskar, a veteran of a dozen pacification campaigns, studied the holographic display of the Sol system with his 4 golden eyes. Unlike many of his peers, he did not underestimate these humans. Any species that had advanced from primitive flight to crude space travel in a single century deserved caution. Status report, he commanded, his translator converting his native clicks and whistles into the standard council language. His second-in-command, Sub-Admiral Trex, approached with a datapad. The humans have detected our arrival. Admiral, their communications have increased exponentially, and we're observing movement of their defensive assets. As expected, Voskar replied. Deploy scout drones to map their defensive grid. I want detailed scans of their technological capabilities before we engage. Admiral, Trex said hesitantly, High Counselor Zextral has transmitted explicit orders to commence the attack immediately. He believes any delay gives the humans time to prepare. Voskar's facial membranes fluttered in annoyance. Zextral is a politician, not a warrior. I will not sacrifice our forces to hasty action. He turned to his tactical officer. Deploy the drones, then position the fleet at these coordinates. We will observe and analyze before striking. As the alien armada advanced methodically into the solar system, humanity prepared for a battle that would determine its very survival. In orbit around Earth, civilian ships evacuated to Mars and the outer colonies, while military vessels formed a desperate defensive perimeter. And beneath the lunar surface, in the heart of Project Prometheus, humanity's secret weapon neared completion, a desperate gamble born of innovation and necessity, exactly the qualities that had made the Galactic Council fear humans in the first place. The stage was set for a confrontation that would reshape the galaxy forever. The Resistance. The first attack came at dawn. Massive energy beams sliced through Earth's atmosphere, targeting military installations across the globe. The Galactic Council's strike was precise and devastating. Communication centers, missile silos, and defense grids were reduced to molten slag within minutes. In the strategic command bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Chen watched in horror as red failure indicators bloomed across the tactical display. 80% of Earth's conventional military capability had been neutralized in the opening salvo. Status of the Prometheus vessels, she demanded, her voice steady despite the catastrophe unfolding. Commander Jackson checked the secure quantum link to lunar base. Artemis and Apollo are ready for deployment. Admiral, Athena still undergoing final calibrations. Chen nodded grimly. Launch the ready vessels. Have them maintain stealth protocols until they reach optimal firing position. She turned to the communications officer. And get me a direct line to the president. The face of President Okafor appeared on the main screen seconds later, his features lit by emergency lighting. Admiral, I'm receiving reports of simultaneous attacks worldwide. Civilian casualties here. His voice caught. They're targeting population centers now. Mr. President, we've launched our countermeasure, Chen replied. But we need time. I recommend immediate implementation of the Lazarus Protocol. Okafor's expression hardened. For a moment, he looked every one of his 67 years. You're certain? It's our only chance, sir. The president closed his eyes briefly, then nodded. Initiating Lazarus Protocol. May history forgive us for what we must do. The communication ended, and Chen turned to her staff. Everyone to evacuation positions. We're relocating command to Moonbase Alpha. As the bunker staff rushed to comply, Jackson approached her. Admiral, what exactly is the Lazarus Protocol? Chen's eyes remained fixed on the tactical display, where alien vessels were now entering low Earth orbit. Something we hoped we'd never need, Commander. A contingency for the end of the world. High above Earth, Voskar observed the destruction with professional detachment. The humans' defenses were falling precisely according to projections. Primitive missile technology and energy weapons that could barely penetrate his fleet's shielding. Phase 1 complete, Admiral. Sub-Admiral Trex reported. 83% of identified military targets neutralized. Voskar nodded. Proceed to Phase 2. Target their governmental and leadership structures. A junior officer approached, mandibles clicking nervously. Admiral, our sensors are detecting unusual energy readings from their moon. It appears they have a significant installation beneath the surface. Interesting, Voskar murmured. Redirect the Fate Weaver and 2 support vessels to investigate. Approach with caution. This species has proven surprisingly resourceful in the past. As the 3 alien vessels broke formation and headed toward the moon, another officer called out in alarm. Admiral, multiple detonations detected on the planet's surface. The tactical display showed a series of massive explosions erupting across Earth's surface, not from alien weapons, but from the planet itself. What is the meaning of this? Voskar demanded. The science officer analyzed the readings, compound eyes widening in surprise. The humans are detonating their own nuclear arsenals, Admiral. Not aimed at us, but at their own planet. Voskar's membranes fluttered in confusion. Explain. The detonations are occurring in specific patterns, primarily in uninhabited areas, oceans, deserts, mountain ranges. They appear to be, the officer hesitated. They appear to be deliberately creating electromagnetic pulses and radiation screens across their planet. Understanding dawned on Voskar. They're hiding themselves from our sensors. He turned to his tactical officer. Adjust scanning frequencies. Find their remaining military assets. But it was already too late. The U.S. Artemis slipped through space, its dimensional dampening field rendering it virtually invisible to the alien armada. Commander Sophia Rice, the vessel's captain, studied the tactical readout with narrowed eyes. Weapons officer, status of the dimensional resonators. Lieutenant Park checked his console. All 10 resonators online and ready, Commander. Targeting systems locked on the alien flagship. Rice nodded. Communications, status of Apollo. In position on the far side of the formation, Commander. They're awaiting your mark to synchronize attack. Rice took a deep breath. Humanity had one chance at this, one opportunity to show these aliens that Earth wouldn't fall easily. All hands, battle stations, she ordered. Initiate attack sequence on my mark. She watched as the massive alien flagship moved into optimal position. 3, 2, 1, mark. The Artemis's stealth field dropped as it fired the first dimensional resonator. The sleek silver projectile streaked toward the alien vessel, seemingly insignificant against the massive warship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then space itself seemed to fold. A sphere of distorted reality blossomed where the resonator struck the alien shields. The fabric of space-time compressed and stretched simultaneously, creating a localized dimensional rift that ignored conventional laws of physics. The alien vessel's shields, designed to repel energy and physical projectiles, offered no protection against this fundamental distortion of reality. A third of the massive ship simply ceased to exist, sheared away by the boundary between dimensions. Simultaneously, the Apollo launched its attack from the opposite flank, targeting 3 alien destroyers with similar devastating results. Aboard his crippled flagship, Voskar staggered as emergency klaxons wailed. What was that? He roared, struggling to his feet as secondary explosions rocked the vessel. Unknown weapon technology, the science officer replied, voice trembling. It appears to be creating localized dimensional instabilities. Our shields were completely ineffective. Impossible, Voskar hissed. These primitives couldn't possibly have mastered dimensional manipulation. Another officer interrupted. Admiral, we've detected the attack vessels. 2 small ships, using some form of advanced stealth technology. They're preparing to fire again. Voskar's tactical mind raced. The Council had severely underestimated these humans. All vessels, evasive maneuvers. Target those ships with everything we have. The alien fleet responded immediately, energy weapons lancing out toward the human vessels. But the Artemis and Apollo were already moving, their enhanced engines allowing them to outmaneuver the larger alien ships. 3 more dimensional resonators found their targets, creating devastating rifts that tore through the alien vessels. The once imposing armada was thrown into chaos as commanders struggled to defend against a weapon unlike anything they had encountered before. In the Lunar Command Center, Admiral Chen watched the battle unfold with cautious hope. The resonators are working better than we anticipated, she observed. Dr. Kato nodded, though his expression remained troubled. Yes, but we have a limited supply. Once they're depleted, we'll be defenseless again. Then we make every shot count, Chen replied. She activated the communication link to the Artemis. Commander Rice, excellent work. What's your status? Rice's voice came through, punctuated by static. 5 resonators deployed, 5 remaining. Apollo reports the same. We've inflicted significant damage to the enemy fleet, but they're adapting their tactics, becoming harder to target. Continue the attack pattern, Chen ordered. The Athena will launch within the hour to reinforce your position. She turned to Dr. Kato. We need more of these weapons. How quickly can we produce additional resonators? The physicist grimaced. The production process is complex. With our current facilities, perhaps 3 per day. But Admiral, there's another problem. He brought up a holographic display showing energy readings from the deployed resonators. The dimensional rifts aren't fully closing after detonation. They're leaving scars in space-time. If we continue deploying these weapons at the current rate, we risk creating permanent instabilities in our solar system. Chen's expression hardened. What's the alternative, Doctor? Surrender. Extinction. Before Kaido could respond, a junior officer called out. Admiral, 3 alien vessels approaching lunar orbit. They've detected the base. Chen cursed under her breath. Activate defensive measures and prepare to evacuate if necessary. She turned back to Kaido. Doctor, how's the Athena coming along? Final calibrations complete, he replied. She can launch in 20 minutes. Make it 10, Chen ordered, watching as the alien vessels grew larger on the display. And pray we haven't just traded one apocalypse for another. Across Earth, humanity rallied in the face of the alien onslaught. The Lazarus Protocol, a desperate plan concealed from the public until now, had transformed the planet's surface into a massive deception. Strategic nuclear detonations had created electromagnetic fields that obscured human activities from alien sensors, while vital personnel and equipment were evacuated to hardened underground facilities. In these hidden bunkers, the remnants of Earth's military forces regrouped and prepared for a ground war should the aliens attempt a land invasion. Civilian populations, guided by emergency protocols that governments worldwide had secretly prepared for decades, took shelter in subterranean complexes built under the guise of civil defense. But the key to humanity's survival lay in space, where the Artemis and Apollo continued their hit-and-run attacks against the alien fleet, using their remaining dimensional resonators with devastating precision. 2 resonators left, Lieutenant Park reported as the Artemis executed a tight evasive maneuver, narrowly avoiding an energy blast from an alien cruiser. Commander Rice studied the tactical display. Despite the damage they'd inflicted, the alien fleet still outnumbered them significantly. "Target the command vessels," she ordered. "We need to disrupt their coordination." The Artemis banked sharply, bringing its weapons array to bear on a large alien vessel directing the fleet's movements. The resonator launched, streaking through space before detonating against the ship's hull. The dimensional rift blossomed, consuming half the vessel in an instant. But as the rift collapsed, something unexpected happened. Instead of disappearing completely, a shimmering distortion remained, a permanent weakness in the fabric of space-time. "Commander," Park called out, alarm evident in his voice. "The rift isn't closing properly." Rice frowned, studying the readings. "Is it expanding?" "Negative, but it's stable." Dr. Cato warned this might happen with continued use of the resonators. Before Rice could respond, the ship's AI issued an urgent alert. "Multiple projectiles incoming. Impact in 5 seconds. Evasive maneuvers," Rice ordered, but it was too late. The alien weapons, crystalline projectiles that shattered into thousands of seeking fragments, engulfed the Artemis. The ship's armor, designed for conventional warfare, provided little protection against the advanced technology. Systems failed across the vessel as the crystalline fragments burrowed into its hull, disabling critical components. Rice clung to her command chair as the lights flickered and emergency klaxons wailed. "Damage report," she shouted over the chaos. "Multiple hull breaches. Engines at 20%. Weapons systems offline." Park's voice was strained as he fought to keep his station operational. Rice made a split-second decision. Activate the final resonator. Target the dimensional rift we just created. Park looked up in shock. "Commander, if we fire into an existing rift, the reaction could be catastrophic." "Exactly," Rice replied grimly. "Do it." With the last of its power, the Artemis launched its final resonator toward the shimmering distortion left by the previous attack. As the 2-dimensional anomalies made contact, physics itself seemed to rebel. The reaction was immediate and beyond anything the human scientists had predicted. The 2 rifts merged and expanded exponentially, creating a cascading tear in space-time that engulfed a dozen alien vessels before collapsing in on itself. When the distortion cleared, a section of the alien fleet had simply vanished, leaving behind a faintly shimmering region where normal space had been permanently altered. On the bridge of his damaged flagship, Voskar stared in disbelief at the tactical display. A third of his fleet, gone in an instant. "What just happened?" he demanded. The science officer's voice trembled as he replied. "The humans deliberately created a dimensional cascade. They sacrificed one of their ships to spring a trap." Voskar's facial membranes pulsated rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation among his species. These are not the actions of primitives. The Council's intelligence was catastrophically wrong. He turned to his surviving officers. "Signal all remaining vessels. Withdraw to a defensive perimeter at the edge of this system." Sub-Admiral Trek's approach, mandibles clicking in confusion. "Admiral, we still outnumber them significantly." The High Counselor's orders were clear. "The High Counselor is not here." Voskar snapped. He did not just watch these humans tear apart space-time itself as a battle tactic. He gestured to the shimmering void where their ships had been. "We are not facing a primitive species, Trex. We are facing something the Council has never encountered before. A young race willing to risk dimensional catastrophe rather than submit. He turned back to the tactical display, where the surviving human vessel, the Apollo, was retreating toward the moon. We withdraw, assess what we're truly dealing with, and then decide how to proceed, he stated firmly. This is no longer a simple pacification mission. This has become something far more dangerous. As the alien fleet began its retreat, the Apollo limped back to lunar base, carrying news of the Artemis's sacrifice and an unexpected discovery. The aliens were capable of fear. In the command center, Admiral Chen received the report with mixed emotions, grief for the lost crew of the Artemis, but renewed determination at the evidence that humanity could fight back effectively. "What's the status of the Athena?" she asked. "Ready for deployment, Admiral," Dr. Cato replied. "And I've analyzed the data from the dimensional cascade. It was reckless, but it's given us valuable information about how to maximize the effectiveness of our remaining resonators." Chen nodded slowly. "Prepare the Athena for immediate launch and begin production of additional resonators. We've bought ourselves some time, but the aliens will be back." She turned to face the assembled staff, her expression resolute. The Galactic Council thought they were dealing with a primitive species that would crumble at the first sign of superior force. They were wrong. Today, we've shown them that humanity will not go quietly into the night. We will fight, we will innovate, and we will survive. As her words echoed through the command center, the tactical display showed the alien fleet retreating to the outer solar system. It wasn't victory, not yet. But for the first time since the conflict began, humanity had hope. And sometimes, hope was the most powerful weapon of all. The turning point. 3 weeks after humanity's first stand against the Galactic Council forces, Earth had transformed. The initial attacks had devastated conventional military installations, but the Lazarus Protocol had preserved enough infrastructure for humanity to begin adapting. Underground factories worked around the clock, producing dimensional resonators based on Dr. Cato's refined designs. The lunar base, once a scientific outpost, had become humanity's primary military command center, coordinating a growing fleet of converted vessels outfitted with the new technology. But time was running out. In the command center at Lunar Base Alpha, Admiral Chen studied the long-range sensor data with growing concern. The alien fleet had withdrawn to the orbit of Neptune, regrouping and receiving reinforcements from deeper in Council space. "They're almost ready," she murmured, noting the new formations taking shape, "and there are more of them than before." Dr. Cato stood beside her, his usually neat appearance now disheveled from weeks of non-stop work. "Our production capacity has improved, Admiral. We now have resonators for all 7 vessels in our defense fleet." "Will it be enough?" Chen asked, not taking her eyes from the display. Cato hesitated. "Against their numbers, no. But I've been analyzing the data from the Artemis incident, and I believe there's a way to create a larger, controlled dimensional disruption." Chen turned to face him. "Explain." The scientist brought up a holographic model showing a complex array of resonators positioned throughout the solar system. "If we place resonators at these specific coordinates and detonate them simultaneously, we could create a network of dimensional rifts, a barrier that would make it impossible for their fleet to approach Earth. A defensive perimeter," Chen mused, studying the model. "But these positions would leave the resonators vulnerable to enemy attack before they could be activated." Cato nodded grimly. "That's the challenge. We would need to deploy them covertly and protect them until the entire network is in place." Commander Jackson, who had been quietly monitoring communications, approached with a tablet. "Admiral, we've received a transmission from the alien fleet. It's Admiral Voskar." Chen's eyebrows rose in surprise. "Put it through to the main screen." The alien commander's face appeared, a disturbing blend of insectoid and reptilian features, with 4 golden eyes that seemed to assess everything simultaneously. When he spoke, his voice was translated into a deep, resonant English. "Admiral Chen, I am Fleet Admiral Voskar of the Galactic Council Expeditionary Force. Chen straightened her uniform instinctively. This is Admiral Chen. I'm surprised you know my name. The alien's facial membranes fluttered slightly, an expression unreadable to human eyes. We have been studying your species for longer than you realize, Admiral. Your recent promotion to Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Forces was noted in your unsecured communications. Chen kept her expression neutral, though internally she cursed the security breach. What do you want, Admiral Voskar? To offer terms, the alien replied. Your species has demonstrated unexpected capabilities. The Council is willing to reconsider its position. Surrender your dimensional technology, submit to Council oversight, and your people will be spared. And if we refuse? Voskar's eyes narrowed. The reinforcements I have received bring my fleet strength to over 500 vessels. Your defensive capabilities, while impressive, cannot withstand such numbers. The Council will not risk the spread of unregulated dimensional technology. One way or another, it will be contained. Chen studied the alien commander carefully. There was something in his tone, not the arrogance she would have expected, but a hint of respect. I'll convey your offer to Earth's leadership, she said finally. But know this, Admiral Voskar. Humanity will not surrender its sovereignty. Not to you, not to your council. The alien commander held her gaze for a long moment. You have 12 of your Earth hours to respond, Admiral. Choose wisely. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in silence. Jackson was the first to speak. 500 vessels. Our entire fleet would be annihilated in minutes. Unless we implement Dr. Cato's plan, Chen replied, turning back to the holographic model. How quickly can we deploy the resonator network? Cato frowned. With our current resources, at least 36 hours. And that's assuming no interference from the alien fleet. Chen's mind raced, analyzing options, seeking a solution in what seemed an impossible situation. Finally, she nodded to herself. Decision made. Commander Jackson, prepare a response to Admiral Voskar. Tell him Earth's leadership wishes to discuss terms. Request a meeting in neutral space. The orbit of Mars should suffice. Jackson looked surprised. Are we actually considering surrender? No, Chen replied, her voice hard. We're buying time. While their attention is focused on negotiations, we'll deploy Dr. Cato's resonator network. She turned to the communications officer. Contact President Okafor. I need to brief him on our strategy. As the command center erupted into activity, Dr. Cato approached Chen privately. Admiral, there's something I haven't told you about the dimensional network. Chen raised an eyebrow. Go on. Once activated, the rifts will be permanent. We'll be essentially cutting Earth off from a significant portion of the solar system, and perhaps beyond. Chen was silent for a moment, weighing the implications. We're talking about isolating humanity from the galaxy. Yes, Kaido confirmed, but also protecting it from threats like the Council. It's a drastic measure, but it may be our only option, Chen finished. She placed a hand on the scientist's shoulder. Prepare the network, Doctor. Let's hope it doesn't come to that.